Tonight, Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi vows to dismantle the structure that has hampered Nigeria's development as he unveils his vision for policy change and institutional reforms at Chatham House, London. APC Campaign Council asks PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar to withdraw from the race over corruption allegations against him by a man who's said to be his former aide. PDP dismisses claim as false, accuses APC of masterminding the action. ASP Drambi Vandi pleads not guilty to murder charge following his arraignment before Lagos High Court over the killing of Lagos-based lawyer Bolanle Rahim.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's headline inflation rate meets economists' forecast, eases to 21.34% in December, its first decline in 11 months.
On sports news tonight, the first Grand Slam of the year, the Australian Open serves off with top seeds Rafa Nadal and Iga Swiatek surviving the tough first-round examination in Melbourne.
And from the nation's capital, former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan urges political leaders to focus on providing solutions to the nation's pressing challenges to make life meaningful for the masses and avoid smear campaign.
And in international news from London, Italy's most wanted mafia boss, Matteo Messina Denaro, has been arrested in Sicily after 30 years on the run.
The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, today took his campaign manifesto outside the country as he spoke at Chatham House, an independent policy institute in London. Mr. Obi doubled down on his resolve to free the nation from the stranglehold of those whom he says have hindered its progress for their selfish interests. He notes that the country is faced with alarming insecurity, which he says has led to a state of hopelessness. He also gave some insight into his plan to transform the power sector.
Chatham House's Director of Africa Program, Dr. Alex Vines, introduces the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, to the audience.
So I want to invite you to come to the podium here and give your presentation, and then we'll have a conversation after that.
Mr. Obi, who is attending the event with some of his supporters, makes his presentation, which centers around his widely publicized 7-point agenda for restoring the country.
The Nigerian state is captive to an elite gang-up and a rentier political economy that concentrated power in hands of those who came to power and influence mainly through their own contrivances and influence rather than affirmation of the people, and therefore do not have the incentive to serve the people.
Mr. Obi's enthusiasm for a new Nigeria is partly inspired by Nigerian youth who have remained resilient in the face of disappointment from successive governments to meet their aspirations.
The reason for these very high stakes are locking in the fast of demographics with our dominant population, the youth, frustrated and unhappy with the status quo and diminished opportunities in Nigeria in an age of globalization where internet and easily reveal to them prosperous homes of those who live in a better led and governed countries. We will use merit to assemble competent Nigerians from all sections of Nigeria to form effective government of national unity.
That's not all. He also goes into specifics on his plans for critical sectors of the economy.
Our solution to the perennial power problem in Nigeria is comprehensive and is well covered in our manifesto. We will ensure that we deal with the issue of transmission, distribution. However, we will immediately complete the 2.3 billion Nigeria Siemens network improvement deal to achieve a stable 7,000 by the end of this year, 11,000 megawatts by 2024, and 25,000 megawatts by 2025.
After his presentation, which lasted for about 30 minutes, it was time for the audience to scrutinize the candidate.
One question is from Baba Femi Adibola, who said, given the complexity of Nigeria's democracy and the Labour Party not projected to have the majority in the National Assembly, how would you work with legislators to ensure the radical reforms you are proposing come to light if you win the presidential election?
When I was elected and sworn in as the governor, I have 30 House members not from my party. In fact, nobody from my party was involved. As long as you are pursuing what is right, everybody will go with you because the legislator is insecure in his place. He knows that his people are without job, and that's what he wants. He wants development.
The Labour Party candidate ends his appearance by talking on his antecedents in governance and private life. He says his achievements as a former governor of Anambra State and in business speaks volumes about his potential to turn the country's fortunes around.
Go and check my record. I've governed the state for 8 years, and I've challenged everybody while you were there. I've been the only governor till today. The day I left office, I was not owing salary, pension, gratuity, or any contract or any supplier.
Mr. Obi is asking Nigerians to trust him and his running mate, Mr. Yusuf Baba Ahmed, with the task of building a new Nigeria, where every citizen will be proud to be addressed as a Nigerian, and where the country can stand shoulder to shoulder with its peers in the Committee of Nations.
First of all, INEC chair speaking.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, is scheduled to appear at Chatham House tomorrow, Tuesday, to speak on preparations for the general elections and priorities for ensuring electoral integrity and inclusivity. The channel's television will bring you a live stream of Professor Yakubu's presentation at 2 p.m. Nigerian time on our YouTube channel and Facebook. Well, back home, the Presidential Campaign Council of the All Progressives Congress is asking the People's Democratic Party's candidate Atiku Abubakar to withdraw from next month's election and immediately submit himself to security agencies. The spokesman of the council, Mr. Festus Keyamo, flanked by other members of the PCC, told a news conference in Abuja that Mr. Abubakar needs to address the corruption allegations against him by a whistleblower, which he says border on money laundering, a breach of a penal and criminal code. The APC Campaign Council also indicated plans to commence legal action against him.
Revelations by a whistleblower, Mr. Michael Achimugu, who has provided the nation with iron-cast evidence of letters of appointment by Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, emails, documents, audio clips, sworn affidavits, and his direct oral evidence as to how Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who happens to be the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, during his tenure as Vice President of Nigeria between 1999 and 2007, colluded with his then boss, President Olusegun Obasanjo, to fleece the country and steal public funds using what he termed the Special Purpose Vehicle, SPVs. Those SPVs were companies Atiku admittedly registered upon assumption of office as Vice President with the approval of President Olusegun Obasanjo, using trusted allies as shareholders and directors. The purpose was to divert government contracts to these companies as consultants, and then paid monies into these companies and used those monies to fund the PDP and their private businesses and family activities.
Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has described the call for the arrest of its presidential candidate by the APC Presidential Campaign Council as irresponsible and an attempt to divert public attention from the issues affecting Nigerians. A statement signed by the National Publicity Secretary of the party, Mr. Debo Ologunagba, explains that the PDP presidential candidate is one of the most investigated public officials in the country without any record of culpability. And also speaking on the issue on our program Politics Today, spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, Senator Dino Melaye, dismissed the allegations and instead accused the APC of masterminding them.
my candidates have no personal or administrative relationship with Michael Achimugu. He is not an aide of Atiku Abubakar. These are all orchestrations of the APC. Technology these days, let me tell you, there's something called voice over technology. I can plant your voice, I can manipulate your voice, I can coordinate your voice, and I'm telling you that everything that have been orchestrated, that have been presented by Michael Achimugu are fallacies, lies, malicious lies from the pit of hell. And I'm telling you that Nigerians should not be distracted. This is a strategy to just distract the general public from the issues that are on ground and from diverting the attention of the electorate from the upcoming election. And we should not be distracted about that. Atiku is not going to respond to these issues of lies. Atiku is busy selling his agenda to Nigerians. He's busy communicating with the electorate. He's busy telling them, I will take you out of the land of Egypt to the promised land of Canaan. He's trying to tell Nigerians that by the grace of God, the issues of power will be solved. The issues of insecurity will be solved. Housing and unemployment will be solved. That I will bring peace back to this land. That is what Atiku is selling to the public. And that is what we want to be concerned about.
Well, to subnational politics now. In Adamawa State, Governor Omar Fintiri is promising that his second term in office will bring about development which has never been witnessed in the state. But Governor Fintiri made this pledge while addressing potential voters during a rally in Volpi in Numan local government area of the state.
In continuation of his ward-to-ward campaigns across the state, Governor Umaru Fintiri of Adamawa State and the People's Democratic Party Campaign Council are on a tour of local government areas in the southern zone of the state. The tour touched some communities in 4 local government areas. The dusty and bumpy roads did not discourage the team, as they are received by supporters in the communities. Speaking in Hausa language, the governor and his running mate urged residents to vote for the party in the 2023 general elections.
We are rehabilitating 10 legacy secondary schools. We have achieved success in free education program and free payment of WAEC and NECO fees, as most of our students got 5 credits and above. We will continue creating more jobs for our youths and women. We are constructing 5,000 classrooms, more primary healthcare centers, 350 kilometers of roads, and 8 cottage hospitals, among other giant strides of the present administration.
We should not allow anyone to deceive us. Any government without your representatives means you will have nobody that can help you. Any government that you are well represented means your voices will be heard. The era of deception is over, and so Fintiri is our best option.
For the people, the administration has performed well and deserves a second term.
His Excellency now, because of all that you have done, he has done so many things. I've told you that the developmental infrastructure that he has done in all the state capital, all the roads in Bekaji now is something else after many years of abandonment. The flyover that has now made it possible, traffic is no longer there, and then people can drive and then appreciate, yes, this is Garkida, which has now turned to, this is Yola, which has now turned to London.
In every community, the candidates of the party are optimistic about victory when the exercise commences on February 25 this year.
In part 2, after the break, more campaign activities by political parties. PDP in River State kicks off its rallies in Ogba, Egbema and Doni local government area. Well, that's in a moment. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi vows to dismantle the structure that has hampered Nigeria's development as he unveils his vision for policy change and institutional reforms at Chatham House, London. APC Campaign Council asks presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, to withdraw from the race over corruption allegations against him. PDP dismisses claim as false, accuses APC of masterminding them. ASP Drambi Vandy pleads not guilty to murder charge following his arraignment before a Lagos High Court over the killing of Lagos-based lawyer Bolanle Rahim. And Italy's most wanted mafia boss, Matteo Messina Denaro, arrested in Sicily after 30 years on the run. More campaigns now. The FCT senatorial candidate of the Labour Party, Mrs. Ireti Kingigbe, is of the opinion that the Labour Party alone can solve the country's problems, saying neither the APC nor the PDP know what the problems are. According to her, the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, has the upper hand to win the election because the youths of the country believe in him. Mrs. Kingigbe, who is a former wife of the VP candidate of the annulled June 12, 1993 election, Babagana Kingigbe, says Mr. Obi's followership is organic and no one gets paid to show up for rallies. She was speaking to our political correspondent, Terry Ikumi.
When I looked at the ACT rally, I saw a lot of young people come out. And that, for me, that carries much more weight than one person saying, I think, yeah, it carries some weight. After all, when in 2015, when we were running, and certain people came out to endorse APC, and we were happy about it, but it still has to translate into votes. And where Peter Obi has the upper hand is that the youth of this country, all over, actually believe that APC and PDP are not seeing the problem and therefore are not prepared to solve them. I have been in both parties. The truth is that Peter Obi's support is completely organic. Nobody in any of the places that we've gone to has been given a kobo to come out. Now, if all those people at their rallies were organic, then their responses would show they're not passionate, they're lackluster. I've been in this politics for a long time. There are times when some of my supporters will tell you, Madam, I dey come. They are gathering people in so place and they are giving us so amount, make I go collect.
For the full interview, do watch Political Paradigm tomorrow at noon and 11 p.m. only on Channels Television. Well, Terry is not done just yet. He's here live from our Abuja studios with more stories on the news at 10. Good evening, Terry. It's over to you now.
Good evening, Coyote. It's nice to see you. Let's go to political campaigns now. The River State's chapter of the People's Democratic Party has kicked off its local government campaigns with a rally in Ogba Egbem and Doni local government area. Addressing a crowd of PDP supporters at Omoku, the council headquarters, Governor Nyesom Wike asked them to remain focused on the party's mission to defend the interests of River State through the ballot. Meanwhile, the governorship candidate of the PDP in the state, Mr. Siminalayi Fubara, promises a consolidation of the Wike government's achievement.
The die is cast for a full-blown political campaign by the People's Democratic Party in River State, and Governor Nyesom Wike is leading from the front as the party begins to solicit for votes at the local government level. The first port of call is Ogba Egbem and Doni local government area, where a crowd of party supporters cheerfully welcomed the party's entourage to the council secretariat's pavilion in Omoku, the council's headquarters. This campaign rally is particularly important for the PDP, as it holds in the local government area of its deputy governorship candidate and the Director General of the party's Consolidation Campaign Council, who promises massive votes for the party.
We are not shaking. Anybody that fights you is fighting us. Anybody that supports you is supporting us. We are not ready to shake. Just give us the marching order. Once you give us marching order, we have to go on presidency. That is where Ogba Egbem and Doni local government is going to follow.
By God's grace, I impacted in all the 6 zones. Combination.
The party's flag is presented to the incumbent deputy governor, who is contesting for a senatorial seat, and other candidates in the area, as she, on behalf of others, assured the party of victory.
We will win all the seats at the gubernatorial level, at the National Assembly and State Assembly. All the seats will be won for PDP.
For the governorship candidate, his vision is to turn this locality into an industrial hub.
You know what it means for your city here to be a gas hub? Businesses will come, investment will come, employment problem will be over.
In his address, Governor Nyesom Wike states that the campaign is only for the state-level elections and asks the people to defend the interest of Rivers State.
Let me ask you a question. When Obabandani had flood last year, Ahuda West was flooded. Abua was flooded. Did you see anybody come to sympathize with you? No way. Did they come? No way. Did they come? No way. And that is why you know those who hate Rivers State. That's how you know those who love us. If you hate Rivers State, we will not give you our vote. Not be so? Not so. Not be so? Not so. We will only give our vote to those who love Rivers State.
Earlier, the PDP entourage paid a courtesy visit to the first-class monarch of the area, Eze Nwachukwu Oboha, who conferred on Governor Nyesom Wike a chieftaincy title and blessed the governorship candidates of the party, Siminialayi Fubara.
Over to Abia State now, where the governorship candidate of the Liberal Party, Dr. Alex Oti, is promising to fix insecurity and also reduce poverty in the state through wealth creation if elected. Dr. Oti made this pledge at the palace of the traditional ruler, His Royal Highness Eze-Uwakwe Ukegbu in Bende. According to him, his wealth of experience and successes recorded in the private sector puts him far ahead of other candidates.
Labour Party governorship candidate in Abia State, Dr. Alex Oti, intensifying his campaign as he rallies support by paying courtesy visits to critical stakeholders across the length and breadth of the state. On his way to Bende local government area, the campaign train of Dr. Oti made a brief stop at the palace of the chairman of the Traditional Rulers Council, His Royal Highness Eze-Uwakwe Ukegbu, and was conferred with the chieftaincy title. Not spending much time, Dr. Alex moves to the Wesley Cathedral Church, Nauchi, during their covenant service. Thereafter, the campaign train proceeds to the palace of His Royal Majesty, the traditional ruler of Arikba community, in Umunochi local government, to seek his royal blessings and support.
We will create wealth. But there's a difference between sharing money and creating wealth. Creating wealth is empowering you so that you can feed and have more to give out to others. And in a wealth that was created, in a year you sleep easy.
Dr. Oti's campaign team then left for Nyota Central School, Okokitem, Town Hall, and Alai Central School premises in Bende local government, where it was received with excitement as the people trooped out en masse. In their separate remarks, Dr. Oti's running mate Ikechukwu Emetu and some other leaders of the party and campaign council said the Labour Party flag bearer is the most competent and qualified candidate in the race.
What the government of Dr. Alex Oti and my humble self, his deputy, happens to be promising the good people of Umunochi is that our government is going to bring the job which will reduce the youth's restiveness.
Alex Oti has track record, he has verifiable antecedents, he is an accomplished professional. So that is why he enjoys enormous support and solidarity wherever he goes, and you will see what happened today.
This visit to Umunochi and Bende local government areas makes it 6 local government visited so far by the Dr. Alex Oti campaign organization. Is expected to visit the remaining 11 in the coming days ahead of the March election.
Well, still on election-related matters, Justice Binta Nyako of the Federal High Court Abuja has fixed January the 30th for judgment in a suit asking for an order compelling INEC to either give registered voters their permanent voter cards or allow the use of their temporary voters' cards or voters' identification number during the 2023 general elections. The suit against INEC was filed by a civil society organization on behalf of 29 million registered voters who they say are about to be disenfranchised in the 2023 general election. The plaintiff are seeking a declaration that all persons who have duly registered with INEC as voters and whose names are contained in the defendant's in the register should not be deprived of the right to vote in the forthcoming general election. But counsel to INEC says the case of the plaintiff is based on speculation, adding that INEC has extended the deadline for the collection of PVCs. He also wonders why the application was filed when PVC collection has not ended. The presiding judge, Justice Bintanyako, also agrees that it is a very serious matter, as some persons in her household cannot and have not collected their PVCs. She subsequently fixed January the 30th for judgment. Now, still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's headline inflation rate eases to 21.34% in December, its first decline in 11 months. That's on Business News. Please stay with us.
Well, as political parties intensify their campaigns for the general elections, former President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan has called on political leaders to desist from smear campaign and character assassination and instead focus on providing solutions to Nigeria's pressing challenges to make life meaningful for the people. Dr. Jonathan made the call while commissioning the Etebienwa Bridge in Akwa Ibom State.
It's a day of celebration as a convoy carrying dignitaries and guests move along the Afi Ukontege Bridge at Mbo in Akwa Ibom State for its official commissioning. Soon afterwards, former President Goodluck Jonathan with his wife Patience and Governor Udom Emmanuel of Akwa Ibom make their way to the venue amid cheers from supporters. The State Commissioner for Works gives details of the project.
This is the longest bridge in south of this country and the longest ever commissioned by any state government in this country. Other bridges are constructed by the federal government.
The PDP governorship candidate in Akwa Ibom State, Pastor Umar Eno, and former Kogi State Governor Idris Wada lauds Governor Emmanuel for his commitment to good governance.
See the burden of leadership that is placed on my shoulder to ensure that we follow through, to ensure that we do the things that you have put in place.
As I look at the bridge, I cannot but feel good inside that you have done such quality work for the people of Akwa Ibom State.
Governor Udom Emmanuel expresses satisfaction with the quality of the project.
There's no local government out of 31 that will say that this administration has not touched or there's not an ongoing life-touching project going on right now. And I keep telling people, sum up all the projects we've done, compare with what I receive. If you don't have a deficit, that is only the Heavenly Father who multiplied 5 loaves and 2 fishes that can explain, not man.
For the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, Nigeria's challenges require urgent and sincere commitment from political leaders.
In fact, I agree totally with the person who tagged him the 7-star governor. Because such people work hard to ensure that the democracy produces good fruit in the country, what we popularly call dividends of democracy. We need more people like him to ensure that our democracy is not derailed. That is why I am a bit worried by the negative energy being generated ahead of the 2023 elections. And of course, I'm very, very happy that the incoming governor of Akwa Ibom State is here himself and he spoke to us.
And then, the official commissioning of the bridge is performed by the former president.
To the glory of God.
Amen.
This bridge, located along Etebienwa Road, is regarded as the 4th longest in Nigeria, and residents of Mbo community will look forward to more development projects in the future.
Back to the courts, where the suspended Assistant Superintendent of Police, Drambi Vandi, who's accused of killing Lagos-based lawyer Mrs. Bolanle Rahim on Christmas Day, has pleaded not guilty to murder at the Lagos High Court sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square. Mr. Vandy was arraigned on a one-count charge of murder before Justice Ibirake Harrison in a case preferred against him by the Lagos State government. The Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in the state, Moyosoro Digbanjo, led the prosecution, while the National President of the NBA, Yakubu Mekiao, and some state NBA leaders were present in court to monitor proceedings. Mr. Vandy, who was attached to the Ajuwe police station in Ajah, Lagos State, allegedly shot Bolanle Rahim while she was returning from an outing with her family members on Christmas Day. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has granted permission to the former Attorney General of the state, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Shiko Shashore, to travel abroad for medical treatment. Justice Chukwujeku Aneke granted the request following an application filed and argued by Mr. Shashore's team of lawyers led by former President of the NBA, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Paul Osoro. The lawyers told the court that Mr. Shashore had been diagnosed with lattice retinal degeneration to both the left and right eyes, as well as chronic rheumatologenous retinal detachments to the right eye. The counsel to the EFCC, Mr. Bala Sanga, did not oppose the application, and the judge subsequently adjourned the case till February the 21st for trial. But to the education sector, the dearth of infrastructure, inadequate teachers, as well as poorly equipped laboratories are hampering learning in unity schools across the country. Well, that's according to the report from the Service Compact with All Nigerians, Servicom. Well, the report recommends that the federal government pay urgent attention to the recruitment and deployment of teaching staff for mathematics, chemistry, and English language.
Principals and administrative heads from 15 unity schools across the country are attending this meeting with officials of the Federal Ministry of Education and the National Coordinator of the Service Compact for All Nigerians, Servicom, in Abuja.
I'm representing the Director Principal.
The meeting is a formal presentation of the Servicom Compliance Evaluation Report on 15 unity schools to the Minister of Education. The report identifies some impediments to learning and effective service delivery in the schools. The report also highlights other areas of concern, including the poor state of students' accommodation, bullying and lateness to classes by some teachers.
Then deployment of teachers. This one rests squarely with the ministry. And so we are hoping to see, especially in the essential subjects, so that we can have more teachers posted. Then it was observed during the evaluation that most of the equipment in the biology and agricultural laboratories were outdated. We need to update them and improve around that so that they can have best practice around learning in biology and agriculture.
The report further recommends a quick fix to some of these challenges in order to scale up service delivery in the unity schools.
Our teachers need more training. I've seen it personally from my interaction with some of you. And the good luck is that government too is planning some things to reposition the teaching profession. What we are doing in the ministry now, we are trying to identify pockets of weaknesses where we lack teachers: English, mathematics, religious studies. And the unfortunate thing is that we are being forced to take some hard decisions.
We are processing waivers. Like I said, it's a centralized recruitment system we run currently. You have to secure an approval from the head of service before you can employ a cleaner. However, we are working and we are not getting the waivers.
There are 104 unity schools across the country, originally created as centers for academic excellence. However, the Servicom report is also recommending long-term solutions that will restore the glory days of these centers of academic excellence.
And now to some company news. One of Africa's leading financial technology companies, InterSwitch, is marking 20 years of its operations in Nigeria. Well, the celebration was rounded off with a dinner attended by staff, management and players in the fintech sector in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital.
20 years is not a mean feat to attain as an organization, so the management and staff of InterSwitch hosts players in the fintech sector and notable Nigerians to a dinner tagged the InterSwitch Ball. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who joins virtually, applauds the contribution of InterSwitch to Nigeria's economic development. In the same vein, Edo State Governor says he is proud to be associated with the company's achievements.
InterSwitch just tells us the possibilities. It also gives us hope of a great tomorrow and a great country.
First, it is our desire and our vision that Africans deserve better, and no other person will change our country other than us. And so for some of us, there's this desire to take one problem, one challenge after another and just begin to deal with them. In the case of InterSwitch, we went after payments. You can see what we have been able to achieve in that ecosystem in over 20 years.
One of the highlights of the day is the recognition of long-serving staff.
But I was told that they want us to
we believe that it will take Africans to solve African problems, and that's the motivation at InterSwitch. That's what has kept us going these 20 years. Actually trying to, redefine what people call payments, not just because of the fact that we'll make money, but the fact that we're actually changing lives.
20 years on, we're still here, and we have grown enormously, obviously from nothing 20 years ago. But I wouldn't want to understate the challenges that businesses have, and the current economic climate is very complicated, both in Nigeria but actually globally. Just about everything from the pandemic, the war in Europe, so on, it goes on. And we have to factor those things in business. But that's what business people are supposed to do, and our leader, Mitchell Egbe, is very good at understanding the headwinds and the tailwinds and taking advantage of them.
InterSwitch, an integrated payments and digital commerce platform company, says it is committed to payment solutions for modern lifestyle, business collection, disbursements, and payment processing in Africa and beyond.
Well, for more business stories on the news at 10, here's Anne Oawado.
Thank you, Kayode. Hello and welcome to Business News. In line with the forecast made by economic advisory firm Financial Derivatives Company, Nigeria's headline inflation rate has recorded its first decline in almost 1 year, and that's according to latest data coming from the National Bureau of Statistics. The Consumer Price Index eased from 21.47% recorded in November to 21.34% last month. At the same time, the country's core food, rural and urban inflation rate also fell within the month of festivities. FDC lists factors like lower prices of diesel, naira rate appreciation at the parallel market, end of flood in affected parts of the country, and harvest season as contributors to the drop in inflation. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, today resumed duty from his annual vacation abroad, and that's according to a statement released by the CBN. His return from vacation also comes after his trip with President Muhammadu Buhari's entourage to the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in Washington in the U.S. last month. Following his return to the country, Mr. Emefiele is now set to lead members of the CBN's Monetary Policy Committee for their first two-day rate decision meeting for this year, which is scheduled for next week, and that's January the 23rd and the 24th. The Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission is set to roll out a proprietary software for the collection of data and indices to be used for the horizontal revenue allocation formula for the country. The chairman of the commission, Mohammed Bello Shehu, disclosed this in Abuja while announcing the takeoff of its maiden tooling program. Mr. Shehu recalled that the commission had earlier concluded and submitted to President Muhammadu Buhari a review of the vertical revenue allocation formula. The review, according to him, is to be forwarded to the National Assembly for promulgation into law. The boss explains that the vertical revenue allocation formula deals with the sharing of revenue among the three tiers of government. And from there, we head to the local markets today, which began the third trading week in January with profit-taking activities by investors. And John Mekwa has the figures.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, it's expected that a profit-taking will succeed a gainful trading week. So we shouldn't be surprised that the most liquid counter, the banking counter, took a major drop at the close of trade today. We see it shedding 3.39%, and that's because all the figures and some second-tier banks dropped in share prices. GTCO, Accessco, UBA, FBN Holdings, Zenith, they all dropped today. Investors were very, very busy. They're also busy on the industrial goods, as we see that counter drop 0.18%, and that's because of Lafarge. It shed from its share price today. Another evidence of profit taking there. But thank God there's one positive, that's the oil and gas, marginally up there at 0.09%. So this is how the oil share index dropped 0.31%, but still hanging to that 52,000 level at the close of Monday's trade and still doing that 28 trillion naira. But certainly the bear is out. So the activities in the market ended positive. All three elements of the chart increased. Volume went up 222 million. Value also up, as well as deals. Deals was very high. So this shows that there was a lot of activity in the market today. Let's hope that there'll be a quick recovery, in the market by tomorrow. That's the stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa. It's back to you.
And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Coyote.
Well, thank you, Anne. The boss of Italy's notorious mafia gang, the Cosa Nostra, has been arrested after being 30 years on the run. Messina Denaro was reportedly detained in a private clinic in Sicily's capital, where he was receiving treatment for cancer. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Italy's most wanted mafia boss, Matteo Messina Denaro, has been arrested in Sicily after 30 years on the run. More than 100 members of the armed forces are said to have been involved in the arrest. Italian media reported that he had been receiving treatment when he was captured just before 10 a.m. and taken to a secret location by the Carabinieri. Messina Denaro was tried and sentenced to life in jail in absentia in 1992 over numerous murders. He is alleged to have been the boss of the notorious Cosa Nostra mafia. Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, visited prosecutors in Palermo, congratulating them after the arrest.
The arrest is a very, very important event. Obviously, Mr. Matteo Messina Denaro is the keeper of fundamental secrets in very delicate matter. As, for example, the reasons of the most serious mafia crimes or the possible connivance between political subjects and mafia leaders. So now we have to consider, and this is the basic question, what will happen? Will he cooperate with the judicial authority or not?
The mayor of Dnipro in Ukraine has warned there may be no further survivors after Saturday's Russian missile strike on the apartment building in the eastern city. A whole section of the 9-story block collapsed and authorities say at least 36 people have died. Rescue efforts are continuing. Several others are still missing and 75 survivors were injured. Russian President Vladimir Putin's spokesman insisted that the Russian military did not strike at residential buildings. Investigators in Nepal have found the black boxes on board the flight that crashed in the country's deadliest flight disaster in 30 years. Extraordinary footage shows the plane dramatically tilting moments before it goes down. Video in the moments after the crash shows the desperate efforts to rescue those on board. There were 72 passengers and crew aboard the Yeti Airlines flight from Kathmandu to the tourist town of Pokhara, which crashed. No one is believed to have survived. A Metropolitan Police armed officer who used his role to put fear into his victims has admitted dozens of rape and sexual offences against 12 women. David Carrick, who met some victims through dating websites, pleaded guilty to 49 offences across 2 decades. The Metropolitan Police has apologised after it emerged he had come to the attention of police over 9 incidents, including rape allegations, between 2000 and 2021. A senior officer said his offending was unprecedented in policing.
This is devastating. It's devastating for the victims that have had to go through pain and suffering at the hands of a serving police officer. It is devastating to the trust and confidence that we are working so hard to earn from women and girls across London. It's devastating to colleagues of David Carrick.
European royalty have gathered in Athens for the funeral of the former King Constantine of Greece, who ruled for just 3 years in the 1960s before being forced into exile. Royals from Europe, including Britain's Princess Anne and Spain's King Felipe and Queen Letizia, attended the Orthodox Christian service at the Metropolitan Cathedral in central Athens. Constantine II, a second cousin of Britain's King Charles and godfather to the heir Prince William, lived most of his life abroad but returned to his homeland in his latter years. He died at an Athens hospital last week, aged 82. And flocks of white, black and brown ducks are hunting for snails and bugs as they patrol the grapevines at a vineyard in South Africa's winemaking town of Stellenbosch. The birds help the owner steer clear of pesticides and synthetic fertilizers. Around 500 Indian runner ducks work as a natural pest control and are at the heart of the winery's regenerative agricultural practices, and specifically Indian runner ducks, which have long legs and an upright posture, meaning they are able to reach for snails between the leaves. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And on the programming note, Channels Television will be bringing you a repeat broadcast of the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi's appearance at Chatham House today, right after the news at 10. Do stay with us. And the main news again. The Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, today vowed to dismantle the structure that he says has hampered Nigeria's development as he unveiled his vision for policy change and institutional reforms at Chatham House in London. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kaido Hikelu. Good night.